Okay, here goes. Chillingo, you used to be the former classic company where mobile game iOS games were being published. You were the king of iOS apps. I lost my favorite port of Red Ball 3, the Chillingo port. Now everyone's playing the crappy Hero Craft version. Please, help me to find a way to make your port of Red Ball 3 playable again. And at the same time, will you find any help me find any other games that you still have? Hello? What did I get myself into?
This is the public news broadcaster. Stay tuned in for any news that might happen anytime, anywhere. And now, let's go to this latest episode. Greetings, fellow users, for it seems that uncertainty has happened in the land. For some man has been found seen playing a delisted game off the App Store about a guy on a bike. The problem is he's completely naked. Here is the man to let us know on this naked problem. Well, I personally think that the concept of showing a naked man on a bike is absolutely unnecessary. I got word from the developers saying that this was intentional to maximize empathy with the hostile environment, but that is also completely unnecessary since it would set a bad influence, especially when the rating of the game was rated ages 4 and up. I have now decided to respectfully change the rating to ages 13 and up, since saying a bad influence to kids could possibly result in them seeing even more inappropriate images, and that's not something we want to have. So I respectfully disagree with the rating of ages 4 and up. We do not want this game to set a bad influence on people. And yes, the man is completely naked, but hey, at least he's not showing any private parts. So you can remove the censor bars now. However, it is quite an interesting platformer if one takes the nude imagery aside. But I think parental advice should be absolutely necessary before playing the game. So there you go, fellow users. People have recommended that when the game is released back to the App Store, it should be rated ages 13 and up. However, if anyone's under the age of 18, they should show this to a parent first, but they're most likely going to say no. This has been the 11 o'clock public news broadcasting. Stay tuned in for the 12 o'clock public news broadcasting. And remember, news can happen whenever, wherever.
That's not exactly what happened, but you get the picture. Now, I know what you're thinking. What sort of weird individual could make such a weird concept? Well, the person goes to Reese Millage. After being heavily influenced on the BBC microgame Daredevil Dennis, he had some work in some fair share of licensed games, and it was probably around 2006 that he wanted to make a game called Icycle. For that, he would have to animate it in Adobe Flash Player. Yes, the game existed as an Adobe Flash Player first. It was released in 2009. Originally, from the early prototypes that we got footage of, the game was originally going to be about a dog on a bike. However, he decided to swap it with a middle-aged man named Dennis. And the reason he's naked is, as I said earlier, was to further maximize empathy with him in this hostile environment. With the main idea in place, he needed to add some sort of 100% collectible that will be added as a high score. And so he ended up searching around the internet for some ideas, and he decided to go in Frozen Bubbles. And by the 71st day of development, the game was nearing completion, and so begins the look at the art development. Most of the artwork in this game was inspired by an Australian artist named Charlie Harper, who made bare minimalistic details in his artwork, and this was perfect for vector graphics and Adobe animation. In fact, the still imagery was because of the technology limitations, because back in 2007 or 9, it wasn't possible for vector animations to happen. Hokusai's Great Wave of Kanagawa made for a great starting point. It's clear that if a moving object is still, if it's still, then it's frozen in time, which made for a great starting point. Another impressive but noticeable detail is with the sound effects. Not only was Reese Millage a game developer, but he was a legit sound Foley artist. Yep, all these sounds were made specifically for the game and were not used from any sources. They were all his own sound effects. To make the game more difficult, the game adds it so that you can't pedal backwards, since you would have to remember the best direction. Now we get introduced to the main sort of gimmick that Icycle includes, where objects seem to fall conveniently in a way to try to challenge the player. And yes, this does mean humongous earth terrains. By the way, there are 8 levels in the original Icycle game, and we're 3/4 of it through, and there are a total of 260 bubbles for collection of the entire game. Level, they really started pushing forward with the atmosphere, since you can see a lot of missiles and radars, a lot of war things that no longer had a purpose. Now that the game was finished, he had to establish within 10 to 15 seconds on how the world of Icycle was made. Thousands of years have passed since the present day, where unfortunately the world has turned into another ice age, wiping all of humanity, except a lone survivor who came out of a cryogenic pod named Dennis. Completely naked, the only thing that he had was a bicycle, and tries to find someone else after he thinks he just saw someone pass by. When the game was first released, it was somewhat praised in its first years. In fact, it was so popular it ended up going onto the site ABCYA. However, the teachers there requested Reese Millage that in order to make it onto their website that he had to put boxer shorts on Dennis. And this wasn't because the kids didn't like it, because young kids found it quite funny. It was the parents that applied the pressure. They questioned whether it was suitable material or not. Regardless, Icycle was somehow a huge hit, so much so that Reese Millage wanted to make an expansion of it, a sequel. At this point, technology had advanced very quickly, and so Adobe Flash could handle vector graphics and 2D animation in a browser, so this would work. However, he decided to release it to iOS this time instead of Flash to make it more affordable. And so in 2013, the sequel Icycle on Thin Ice came out, with 20 levels, more than the original. Now, there actually is one funny thing that I forgot. The reason why Icycle is so hilarious is the voice acting. I'll just let the voice clips speak for themselves.
You're feeling quite desperate but knackered, and it'll be a longer hello. Okay. Hello! 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 I don't think you understood that quite.
As you just heard, the voice lines are just so funny. Pete Hoskins, who voiced Dennis, did a great job. In fact, it's not even just his signature hello. Sometimes when he dies, the results are also hilarious. When he falls into the void, you get this. Although I think this one is my favorite. In fact, I think the most funniest Dennis lines is whenever he gets pricked on by spikes. Those are actually the funniest. In fact, this one's actually the funniest. It's so funny. Oh man, I gotta get back on topic. Another thing that Icycle included was the use of customization options, in that some of them are really hilarious, and so the developer Reese Millage got into the trend of humiliating Dennis. And it was this sort of gimmick that allowed YouTubers to push the naked concept, exploiting and humiliating him even further.
Hey, get your butt out of my face, I say!
Making an intro cutscene for the game was actually the hardest part of the game, since the sequel assumed that people played the first game, where he came out of a cryogenic pod with no clothes, trying to find someone after he think he saw someone. And as you can see here, this was the inspiration for the animation that I done at the beginning of this video. As you can see, he's trying to find a woman that he so desperately desires. He thinks he sees some, but he can't find any. Then after a long continuous finding of women, he finally finds one, and it turns out to be a snowman woman that he made himself. And so begins the story, where after giving it a kiss, its head falls off. So starts the game. Now the collectibles are ice cubes. The game actually requests you to collect all the ice cubes. There are 4 challenges in each level. The first and last ones are completing the level and collecting every ice cube, while the third and second ones are tied to doing an extra challenge, like beating the game without jumping, or using a new mechanic. Oh, and one thing that you can nobly tell, Dennis can finally paddle left. Another handy feature that I would like to notice is that the game also includes a vacuum that will suck ice cubes before Dennis even touches them, which makes it easier to collect the ice cubes. Right now I'm on the maximum level a vacuum can get, and the thing about if you want to purchase anything at the ice shop, the ice cubes that you collect in the game are a sort of in-game currency, so you won't actually have to spend real money. However, exclusive to the Android and iOS versions, you could actually pay real money to get more ice cubes, but that just made things a little more stupid. Again, EA does a lot of things stupid with their microtransactions. A new mechanic introduced in this game is the use of the parasol, or umbrella, which Dennis can be able to use it to glide downwards smoothly by holding the jump button when he's in midair. Oh, and something else that I forgot to mention is that there are humongous ice cubes scattered throughout the area as well, which will reward you with a total of 14 ice cubes packed in there. Like the vacuum, the umbrella you start with isn't so strong as you won't glide so long. However, later umbrellas have stronger durability that you can float for longer. You can buy them again at the ice shop. With some exceptions, I've noticed a pattern in the levels where the theme of the level changes every 2 levels. Now here you get introduced to a rose, which you use once to skip an area that may be too tough for you. However, since you're going for the challenges, what's the point of using the roses? Again, this is Electronic Arts. They pushed forward with the microtransactions. Oh, and Dennis gets concussed. Now, as you can see here, this is the music that I used throughout the majority of the video and was used in the public news broadcast segment. But here Rhys Millich references another Australian artist, Renee Magritte, who is known for putting ordinary objects in unusual places. Okay, Rhys Mildridge, what are you doing right now? I've already accepted Dennis being naked on a bike, but why did you have to separate the butt cheeks on the naked fishman and lady? I know this is to maximize empathy with the hostile environment, but this is just absolutely unnecessary. What was that line that Pear said to describe butts?
What is it with you and butts?
Yes, Pear, I absolutely agree. What is it with Rhys Mildridge and butts indeed? Did you really have to go for something like that? now we have our first time challenge level where spikes are constantly getting hit by Dennis, but to avoid them you have to jump at exactly the right time. This can happen over and over again through multiple times. And now Dennis comes across a brink of an annihilation of two opposing sides, now frozen in time. A resemblance of the Christmas card poster of the Christmas 1914 World War I peace treaty, where they would swap chocolates and cigarettes, and it's the one and only place in the game where you don't actually do something, but you just sit and watch the moment of what humanity used to be before everything blows up in the next shot. I honestly think levels 15 and 16 are honestly my favorite levels for this update, though. There are more levels coming after the 20 main ones. But I feel like this is the magnum opus of Icycle. The start of level 16 actually pays an homage to the very game that influenced Reese Millage, Daredevil Dennis. Oh, and Dennis gets concussed for a second time. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that you're going to be hearing this obnoxious tanpura, the instrument in the background, an Indian instrument. It's going to be in this segment, and it's probably annoying for some people. Meanwhile, in this level, Alice in Wonderland style, you have to watch out for these exploding humbugs. Oh, a humbug is a British boiled candy that's supposed to be a delicacy. Watch out though, because they can blast you in random directions though. It's best that you wait until you stop for a minute, so that you can be able to comfortably and slowly make your way across. And now for the very last level, Dennis has to flee a giant snowball that runs after him, an ice-cold ball. Soon, it grabs onto items. This is an inspiration to Katamari. At first, you think the snowball is gone, but then it comes back! As Dennis tries running away from it, it breaks into tinier and tinier pieces. As Dennis runs away, the snowball gets tinier and tinier, greener and greener, clearer and clearer, until he realizes it's the head of his snowball lady that he had been trying to find this very moment. Now dead, he can't marry her. This was his last and final chance. Or at least that was when the game first launched, because in 2015, the game was updated to include 7 levels. However, before we look into that, we need to take a look at the bonus levels, which thankfully don't require crystal to unlock them. It is important to note that not all the levels were added when the game was released. 2 were added during release, and the other 3 were added on the 2015 update that added new levels. So let's actually take a look at them from right to left.
She loves you not. To find out whether your girlfriend or boyfriend loved you. Did you used to do that, mums? Yes. Never worked, did it?
Aptly named She Loves Me Not, you pluck each petal to reveal the fate of Dennis if his snowman girl loves him or not. This next one, called Anti-Chill Water Bottle, you descend downwards while trying to avoid the spikes that are growing in size as they are constantly out of place, moving in a diagonal way. Since this place is really cold, all you would really want is an anti-chill water bottle as you descend downwards. Drink Mocha Coca, or the coffee bean level, was one of the 2 levels that was added in the initial release of the game. You have to descend downwards in a sort of cinnamon bun as you descend towards the middle of it to grab the coffee bun. On the silly side, this is the only level the developer himself cannot beat, because the spinning cinnamon bun makes him feel so sick. Though I managed to play it just fine. It doesn't really bother me, but I could see how it could make someone sick. Oh boy, does hardballs exist. This is the only level that is actually dependent on luck. You have 3 hole slots, and you have to make sure you get lucky 7 times to make sure you don't get hit by the balls. This is dependent on luck, and not even a walkthrough can help you. Worst of all, this is my least favorite level because you'll end up failing a bunch of times. I mean, just look at this sped up video of me trying to get a single time. Do you think this is fun to watch? And here is the winning run where I actually finally managed to get it. And the last bonus level, Golden Allure or Happy Retirement, was the second level that was added during launch. You can only complete this in a mobility scooter because it has a shorter jump, which is necessary for this section. The only negative side is that it has a very slow speed, which I guess is also necessary to avoid the bottles of champagne. My only nitpick is that when you die on the third floor, instead of getting sent back to the third floor at the beginning, you get sent back to the very first floor. It doesn't make any sense to do that. I understand this was to increase the difficulty, but okay, I guess I'll go for what's the original difficulty. It's also worth mentioning that the first game was also ported to the second game as a way to introduce players. If the second game was their first experience to this series, they could see how the first game was. Now this I massively approve of. Now let's take into the last 7 levels, which each have their own unique concept. This first one, named Gazpacho Mountain, shows that even though thousands of years have passed since the human race has become extinct, it shows that the machines that are making gazpacho soups, gazpacho cans, are still working and that they're constantly spitting out produce. I have nothing to say with Molehill Peace other than it's probably Reese promoting his other game that he made called Wonderputt, which is a golf game. Understandable for trying to make people aware of the other game that you made, but maybe not in Icycle. In branching out, Dennis noticed a small imperfection in an imperfect environment, which creates a snowball effect that sends him upwards, and the creation would make a tree, but not just an organic tree, but like a clear tree made of crystal.
Oh.
Home Sweet Home is actually my favorite level in the entire series, where Dennis goes home thinking that he can be saved from all the catastrophes going on outside, only to find out that even in an apocalyptic story, even home is a lethal place. In post-apocalyptic stories, the narrators often walk about how people go through a ghost of society.
Oh.
The idea for Rays of Hope was that he wanted to get a mechanic in the game that would essentially shoot out a beam of light, but would melt all the ice, sort of create, in many ways, what light beams can do and how they can actually work. But its main sort of gimmick is always to look on the bright side of life, and that's sort of interesting in a game like this. In a post-apocalyptic story where it feels like nothing good can be made out of it, then the best thing you can do is look on the bright side of life and ending on a high note.
Oh.
The second and last level, Tectonic States, is an interesting level, for this is the level that Reese Millich wanted to show all the nation's monuments in one level, but smashed together. And it was really interesting moving these famous monuments through tectonic plates.
Oh.
And now for the last level. After all is done looking on the bright side of life, the world falls and collapses. A gateway opens to the Earth's core, and Dennis falls with it. However, he gets one last chance to find his snow woman lady as her whole body and head follow down. Dennis only has to get closer and closer as he keeps falling down into the Earth's core. And that is Icycle. Now, when I first saw Icycle, I thought it was just going to be a weird game focusing on weird imagery, but after giving it a try, holy crap, that might actually be one of the best games I've ever played, as I currently rank it as number 4 of my favorite video games. Feed Me Oil will always still be at number 1, but others can at least try to change the number 10 favorite video game series. We thank you very much for watching. See ya!